Katie, you did it.
We did it.
You did it. I get zero credit for what transpired a couple days ago. You get all the praise and glory and honor and credit.
No, it's always a team effort. I always feel that way. For sure.
I feel pretty privileged to be my part of the team. So
good. I feel privileged too. I'm wearing these pajamas on the podcast because I felt like, we're recording on YouTube. That's why I'm mentioning this.
Yeah.
If you're on YouTube, because I was just like, when's another opportunity when I'm going to be able to wear pajamas on the podcast?
You're right. It's pretty much now or whenever
There's
you have another child.
Pajama podcast day on the calendar.
Yeah.
So yeah, taking advantage of that. I'm just going to go back to bed in a couple of minutes because we just had a baby. How many days ago?
Yeah. I mean, it's been less than it's 2 days. This morning, it was 2 days. Yeah.
2 days. Yeah. All the time, kind of blends together between the mornings and the evenings. And
wow. It was such a blessing, though. I mean, every child is such a gift and such a blessing. And as some of you know, we've had very smooth, straightforward pregnancies and labors and deliveries. And this was the first one that kind of threw us for a loop a couple of weeks ago because right at 36 and a half weeks, our baby flipped and was breech. And we were kind of bummed about that, but we were able to go in and get him flipped, facing the right direction.
Yeah, a lot of people were like, "Oh, we'll just wait. Like he might spin in labor," or my baby spun around 39 or 40 weeks. And why Elisha and I were so anxious about this is because basically everything happened that we thought would happen, which is my water broke first. That's happened 3 out of 4 times with their babies, and then I was early by 2 weeks. So,
and it was a crazy fast labor.
Well, yeah, it was kind of crazy fast. Are we going to walk them through the labor, kind of what happened?
I mean, may as well. I'm sure nobody's interested, but let's give them the rundown.
And the birth story?
I don't know.
We'll tell you guys the birth story.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's give them a quick play-by-play.
Okay. So, yeah, it's kind of funny because every time a baby's come, it's come after I feel like I finished my to-do list.
Yes. I don't know what gets triggered in Katie's brain, but there's just a definite correlation to Katie accomplishing some particular task that she really wants to see finished prior to going into labor. She accomplishes it, and then that night she goes into labor. This has happened for all of our children.
Yeah, it's happened for everyone. So, I mean, I don't want to say like, it's clearly subconscious if it's anything, but I do feel like my body for some reason just
lets down.
It's like, okay, she can have the baby now. I don't know. Maybe
bizarre.
It won't happen again, but it's definitely happened for all 4. So we finished filming this big ukulele course.
Yes.
That's just a huge deal for Voteberg Music Academy. And it was a big deal because if we didn't film this past week, the teacher that was going to teach ukulele was going to be out of the country for like 4 months.
Right. And we really didn't want to wait that long to get this ukulele course filmed and up. And so we just had this last minute 2.5 day stretch where we could get this ukulele teacher to come into town and record this course. And so it was like all hands on deck for those 2.5 days. And literally we dropped her off at the airport on that day. That night. Friday night, huh?
Yeah, I jokingly got on Voteberg Music Academy's Instagram and was like, "Oh, the baby could come tonight. It's a good night for the baby." And then I went to bed and I was laying in bed and I was like, my water just broke.
Yeah.
And this time Elisha didn't question me when my water broke. The first couple times he's like, "Are you sure?" But this time he knew I was for real.
Yeah, it was crazy. So that kicked you into gear, I think at 11 o'clock that night or 11:30 maybe.
Yeah, so my waters broke 3 out of 4, again, of our labors. Which is
to start things off.
Things off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so nothing happened, just laying in bed. My water broke. So I got up and Elisha's like, "Okay, well, I'll blow up the birth pool." This is at 11:45 at night. So you did that.
Yeah, I blew up the birth pool. We kind of, tidied up our room, got some towels, pulled out the baby clothes, the baby diapers, the newborn diapers. I don't know. Yeah, just kind of odds and ends stuff. I wanted to make sure stuff was kind of more or less tidied.
Yeah, Elisha's tidying because he knows people are going to be coming into our house.
Yeah.
And I think this is so funny because you guys know we've mentioned on the podcast, sometimes through different seasons, Elisha struggled with insomnia or having a hard time falling asleep, staying asleep. And so I went upstairs to get some food because I didn't know how long it was going to be and change, and I don't know what all I was doing. And I come downstairs 10 minutes later and Elisha's on the bed snoring, just out.
It was so bizarre because when her water broke, I was like, okay, I got to do my little checklist, get the pool inflated and filled up with water, whatever. I got the dishwasher go, just a bunch of little random things, and it didn't take very long, maybe 30 or 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then I started thinking through the night. I was like, okay, well, I'm probably not going to sleep at all tonight because Katie's labors typically go pretty quickly. And it just made me so tired thinking about not sleeping all night. And I was like, I need to sleep now. The only chance I have of getting any sleep is right now. And I just conked out on the bed and you let me sleep for 40 minutes. It was awesome.
It was kind of funny because I was like, wow, apparently what I have to tell you to get you to go to sleep is I'm gonna have a baby and just put you right out. So I just kind of started tracking my contractions. My contractions started within 30 minutes of my water breaking. They weren't very hard, but they were about 5 minutes apart and a minute long from the first one. Mm-hmm. So it was just right away they were consistent, and then they just built in intensity.
That's right. So right when your contractions were about 5 minutes apart and at least a minute in length, that's when you woke me up and you asked me to go, right?
Well, they started out that strong, but I waited until I had to breathe through them.
Okay, until they got stronger.
Through them.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So once they built up to a stronger, to stronger contractions, that's when you woke me up and you asked me to go call the midwife.
Yeah. So my water broke at 11:45. This is 2 hours later at 1:45. And I was like, hey, I think you need to go call the midwife. And you didn't take me seriously.
Well, no, I took you seriously, but I also was a bit reluctant because Katie and I both really prefer spending the majority of the labor just with the two of us. That's both of our preference, is when it's just her and I and we can work together. And then obviously we love having the midwife there for the end. And so I was like, boy, I think the midwife's going to be here pretty early, for you and I just to be out laboring together. But I did what you wanted, and I called the midwife. And she's like, okay, well, I should probably come over pretty soon because Katie typically labors pretty quickly. And so I was like, oh man, the midwife's just going to be sitting here for 5 hours or 6 hours.
We made the mistake with Louie's birth of calling the midwife too soon.
Yeah.
And it kind of bothered both of us. We just felt like I just kept having to get checked, my blood pressure, and it was just kind of a more invasive process.
Right.
And so,
yeah, because with Leon and Lucy, we loved having a solid chunk of time to just work through the labor with the two of us.
Yeah.
I shouldn't speak. This is what you said. I'm not.
Oh, no,
I'm
no,
here,
no.
the husband, saying this is how we prefer it. This is what you've said.
Yeah. If anyone comes at Elisha for saying stuff, it's because we're on the same page. He's speaking for both of us because we've talked about this before. So I feel like each one of our labor experiences has been very much him and I working together. So I want you to feel comfortable. I don't want any lady being coming at you.
Well, yeah. I wanted to preface that by saying that's kind of why I was reluctant, obviously. And I wasn't in tune like you were with your body. And you're like, no, the midwife should come. I was like, okay,
So, for record, Leon was 9.5 hours. Mm-hmm. Then Lucy was 5.5 hours. And then Louie was about 5.5 hours too. But my water didn't break on that one. So I pushed for a lot longer. Yeah, eventually it broke.
Yeah.
Still in there.
Yeah. And so the midwife, 2 hours in after Katie's water broke, I called the midwife. And that was at 2:30?
Yeah.
That was at 2:30. No, 2.
No.
That was at
1:45.
1:45.
11:45, and then it was exactly 2 hours later. And my contractions were that was after I had a 4-minute contraction. So that was when they started getting all wonky, and I started being like, wow, these are not consistent anymore. They're really hard. And that 4 minutes was really hard because it went down, you know, like contractions build and then they go down and then it just went right back up. Like I didn't have a break. And so that's where I was like, and then I only had a minute break and then another 2-minute contraction. And I was like, yeah, this is starting to get hard. I want to know what my dilation is. And I don't want the midwife to miss this. And at this point I knew this is going to be a fast labor. Like it was just so hard right out of the gate with my contractions.
Yeah. And you didn't tell me that, which there's no reason you should have. I was just basing it off of past labors.
Yeah, honestly, I felt like we were more detached through this whole labor than we have been through my first 3. I think because it was so quick was part of it.
Yes.
And I went to bed before you.
Right.
This night of all nights, you know, we didn't really connect before.
Right.
We were just both really tired and did our own thing and then went to bed. And so I feel like because it was so fast too, we didn't really communicate a lot through it.
Yeah. We didn't just do our own thing. We had somewhat of like an argument before we went to bed. It wasn't like a heated argument.
We weren't mad at each other.
Neither of us were mad at each other. We were just tired and like mad at the topic.
We talked too long about a topic. Basically, it was great. And then it's like you get tired and you're still talking and then you're starting to get annoyed at the other person.
And then we were getting overwhelmed because it was a business related topic about one of our businesses.
Yeah.
And then we just started getting overwhelmed with all that needed to be done. And then we were just like annoyed that we were sitting here talking about this. And so
you wanted to keep talking to get yourself out of the negative place. Right. Like, this shouldn't be negative. We need to figure this out. And then it was like, this is just getting worse. I love you.
Yes.
We're not mad at each other. We just need to go to sleep and talk about this in the morning.
Yeah.
So I went to sleep and then Elisha stayed up just to...
Well, just like decompress and to like
told me,
read
I need
and
a
like...
break.
Yeah.
I was like, you need a break?
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't need a break from you. I wanted a break from like thinking about work in our business and all the stuff that needed to happen. And I just wanted to read a bit. Anyways.
So we weren't mad, but
so that's how we ended that night. We were just
kind of like, you know, when you end on different terms and are just like, we'll think more clear in the morning about this. We weren't mad, but yeah. So that's how it ended. And then the labor started and it was just so fast. It
was. So yeah, the midwives came.
Well, yeah. 'Cause I mean, even this whole time, like, I would usually, when I have a contraction, Elisha would like be there, like holding my hand or whatever. But like I'd have a contraction and then he'd like go upstairs for something.
Well, yeah,
I'd be like, Elisha, and then he'd come back down.
Right. So I filled up the birthing pool and I just left the hose. I had hooked up the hose to our, where the wash machine hooks up. And it was really hot coming in there. So I just left the hose in there and was doing a bunch of other stuff. But then I didn't realize it got cold. We like ran out of hot water. And so the birthing pool, I didn't tell you this, was not very warm because I let the cold water run way too long because I was like doing other stuff while that was filling up. And so it was like lukewarm, way cooler than what I thought you would have wanted it. So I went upstairs and was boiling water and coming back and forth.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, so I did like 6 trips of boiled water to try to get the temperature up a bit.
You're so sweet.
Well, no, it was kind of negligent of me to just leave the hose in there and let it. I was kind of mad at myself that I didn't monitor it more closely. It was unnecessary.
Oh, I'm glad we're doing this recap. I would have never known.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so the midwife showed up
at 2:30.
At 2:30.
Yep.
And at this point, my contractions are really hard.
Yeah.
And I know they're really hard. And I'm assuming I'm dilated to like a 7. And she wanted to check right away and make sure that the baby's head was still down there, which we hadn't had before. Like, that was another reason why I wanted her to come a little bit sooner.
It's like, did this baby flip back around?
I wanted to make sure baby was in good position and its heartbeat was good. Nothing had happened during the flip. You know, I was just like a little more concerned because we'd done that intervention. And so she checked me and was like, oh, you're dilated to an 8. I was like, that feels about right.
Yeah.
And so that's when she was like, after this next one, do you want to get in the birthing pool? And I'd never done a birthing pool before. I have mixed emotions about that whole experience.
Yeah. It went, I think, exactly how I was expecting it to go.
Did it?
Yeah.
Well, anyways, I don't want to talk about it.
We don't have to.
Okay. Well, anyways, so I was in transition in the birthing pool.
Yep.
And that was hard. And then it was just all hard. It wasn't that long though.
Right.
And I knew that. And I knew like we're sprinting through this thing.
It was just
like,
flying.
Just get this baby out. And the whole time, because I knew it was so fast, I had no issue with it being hard, because I was just like, each one of these contractions is doing a ton. Transition is flying by. Just get this thing out of my body.
Yeah.
I am so tired of being pregnant.
Yeah, you weren't like pacing yourself.
No, and I knew I didn't have to.
Right.
So that was a big blessing.
Yeah.
Because, transition is just torture. But then with the push, I guess the midwife said I only pushed for 4 minutes.
Yeah, that's crazy. Because so the midwife got here at 2:30.
And he was born at 2:56.
Yeah,
so
2:56.
Right about 3.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. That's so fast.
It was. And with that 4-minute contraction, with that 4 minutes, I guess, it was a steady pushing contraction the whole entire time. So that was something that was different, is like the midwife was coaching me through pushing, but I could push at any point. The contraction never stopped from when I started pushing to when.
Right. Yeah, because even with our other 3, you would kind of rest between pushes and wait for the contractions to come.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It was different because Louis, the birth right before, it was an hour pushing, but I would have a pushing contraction, and then I'd like change positions, and we'd try something new.
Yep.
And that was hard too, but they were different. Like I couldn't sustain this.
Right. They were little, even though it wasn't like, they weren't breaks. There were little breaks in the midst of those.
Yes.
Then that
where this
that
time it was just a solid contraction. I could push it at any point. So anyways, then he came out.
Wow.
And that was the end of the story. So it was really fast.
It was.
It was hard and fast, and the Lord was just so gracious with all of it. I didn't have any tearing, and everything went so smooth.
He was healthy, 7 pounds, 7 ounces.
Yes.
He was hardy. He was able to nurse right away.
Yeah, we've had issues with our other kids nursing because they've been so small, and probably because they've come a little early.
Yeah. Something else that was or kind of funny really, is Katie's mother and you have always wanted her at one of your labors.
Oh, yeah.
And she's wanted to be at all of them, but for whatever reason, she's always missed, your first 3.
Which is so funny because in Bend, Oregon, we lived in the same town.
10 minutes away from them.
For my first 3, but she was always out of state.
Yes.
When I had the baby. And my sister Kyla lives in Kentucky, which is a long ways away from Oregon, if you're familiar with a map. And my mom made it to her birth.
She did?
Yes.
For the actual labor?
For the whole thing.
No way.
She said she made it there for, like 6 hours of it.
That's crazy.
And Kyla's birth wasn't extraordinarily long.
Wow.
Yeah.
So anyways, we called or texted your mom when you went into labor, because they were actually like teaching at a marriage conference about 3 or 3.5 hours away. Mm-hmm. But we knew they'd still want to know. And so we texted your mom at midnight, or called her, I can't remember.
Yeah.
And your mom and dad were like, let's do it. Like, let's get there. And they thought they had plenty of time because Katie, had just gone into labor. And, but they did not have enough time to get here. They missed
got here like 20 minutes late.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. They drove through the night and just were, pedal to the metal and just missed it. But they've been a tremendous help. Katie's mother is always a help after our children. We probably mentioned that a couple weeks ago, how even though she missed the labor and delivery, she would be just all present for multiple days afterwards.
Yeah.
Taking care of Katie. And
with my first, we had issues with Leon nursing.
Yeah.
And Mama came for like a couple days, probably like right about where I'm at now. Mm-hmm. And I was still kind of riding on we just had a baby high. We were like, we got this. My mom left and I just like emotionally tanked.
Right.
Leon started losing weight. We couldn't nurse. Anyways, it was this big thing. So she came and stayed for a week. And ever since then, she's come and stayed. And
yeah. And then not only
is
she staying and helping with meals and cleaning and taking care of Katie and helping with the nursing and all of that, Katie's dad, Chad, took our other 3 kiddos to their house in Montana. And so they're fully taken care of and loved and, just get total awesome engagement from their aunts and uncles. And we get a quiet home to really rest and recuperate and just focus on the baby and each other. It's just a total blessing.
So the kids will be over there for a couple of days. Mm-hmm. I think they're coming home tomorrow. It's crazy. I'm sure you can all relate to this. Once you have other kids and you have a newborn, your other kids seem so big and rough.
Yeah.
Like they're so sweet. I miss them. But they like come in, and all of a sudden, you know, you have your newborn that's like so gentle and their cries so little and everything's so small. And all of a sudden your toddlers just seem like these giant kids that are going to like destroy your body.
They are stoked about our newborn, but they're a hazard. They're like way too stoked. You know, they just want to smother him in love. And so, that's like a whole new challenge is keeping our newborn alive.
Yeah. Are we going to share his name?
Yeah, we probably should.
I feel like we just keep saying our newborn or baby. We've been so used to referring to him as that, but we can tell you guys his name now.
Yeah, so as you can tell, we're sticking with, we started with the L theme, and so we're not going to deviate from that.
We officially have reached the stage where I'm like, I think we might have too many L kids because we have called our baby Lewis.
Yeah, I love all of our children's names, but I do think it's going to be confusing and we're going to just mess it up all of the time. But we're committed and we're going to stick with it.
Oh yeah, I feel like now.
So his name is Lawrence Gillette Voetberg.
Lawrence Gillette. So it's spelled like L-A-W, like law. And we don't want him to be nicknamed Lori. Right?
Yeah.
I don't think I want him to be nicknamed Laurie. If anyone calls him a nickname, I'd rather it be Law. So he spelled it that way. Mm-hmm. And then Gillette, like the racer.
Yes, we've got Leon, Lucy, Lewis, and Lawrence.
But that gets called Lewis 90% of the time right now.
Yeah, that's true. But I feel like that's inevitable.
Yeah, we'll get used to it. But anyways, it's just, he's been healthy and happy. We think he has a lip tie, but we'll cross that bridge in a little bit. It's
such a gift. You know, every time we have a newborn, I can't help but think of that gospel song. I think Bill Gaither wrote it. It's called Because He Lives. And the second verse is how sweet to hold a newborn baby and feel the love and joy he brings, I think. But greater still, that calm assurance this child can face uncertain days because he lives, because Jesus lives. And I think of that every time I'm holding our newborn, where you just love them so much. They're so vulnerable and so dependent. But we're in uncertain times, you know, these times are unprecedented, you know, that we're in right now.
And we're always in an uncertain time.
Yeah, we're always in uncertain times. But I've got so much confidence, and because of what Christ accomplished on the cross, and because he's been given all authority under heaven and here on earth, that this child can face these uncertain days. And my full confidence is because Christ lives, because he rose from the dead. He accomplished everything he needed to do through his death and resurrection. And I feel like having that realization of the vulnerability of your child and realizing, oh man, there's all the things that could potentially go wrong in this child's life. I don't want to find any security for this child and what we can do for them or how competent they will be or their surroundings or the environment and the culture. But I want our confidence to be fully in Christ reigning and the power and authority that he has in this child's life and in our life.
Yeah, that's encouraging.
Yeah. That's just, I don't know. I've been thinking about that the last couple of days because that verse just goes through my mind over and over again. How sweet to hold a newborn baby and feel the love and joy it brings, which is so true. But then the greater still, that calm assurance that this child can face in certain days because he lives. I love that we don't have to sell ourselves short of embracing the joy and privilege it is to be parents. It doesn't have to be tainted by this fear of the unknown or what can go wrong. You can fully embrace the joy of a child because he lives.
Yeah, I love that calm assurance.
Mm-hmm.
Just really comforting.
It is.
So true. So we'll see how the adjustment goes. I think we know that you're just on the beginning of quite a endurance stretch.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just so great. I'm just so grateful to not be pregnant.
Oh, yes.
And to just have the confidence that he's out.
Yep.
We can see what's going on now. And
what's funny though is I think this is by far the most intimidated Katie and I have been for the postpartum season. And and that's primarily because of having the other three kiddos, having three that are 4 years old, 2 years old, 1 year old, and now a newborn. For whatever reason, 3 didn't seem that overwhelming or scary, but this 4th one is kind of intimidating.
It's very intimidating. I think too, I was saying I've been so physically incapable of helping with the kids with a lot of stuff for a while. As far as like you load them all up in their car seats.
Sure, I mean, not a while. Maybe the last like month or so.
Since like 34 weeks. Yeah, so probably about 4 weeks.
Okay, yeah.
And obviously I feel that way still because I still feel very fragile. Mm-hmm. So it's very daunting to think, oh, there's another child that needs to be carried and fed and, you know, all these different things. But I think that transition's still going to be hard because they're all still so dependent.
Right.
Like people, it's so funny. People say all the time, like, oh, don't worry, 4 will be way easier than 3. But I've never met someone who said that had a 4-year-old. Like Leon turned 4 this week that Lawrence was born.
Whose oldest was 4.
Yeah, like usually 4. They're like, I'm like, well, how old are your kids? And they're like, 7 and 5. And, you know, it's different when they can like tie their own shoes and they're still in diapers. And I don't know. Our kids are just all very, very dependent.
Yeah, it's like really sketchy every time we get them out of the car, you know, and there's like, we're close to a street, you know, or we're close. I don't know. They're just so unpredictable still.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's unpredictable.
Yeah.
And very dependent. So obviously we're going to adjust. And I'm so grateful. Like I was just talking to my mom and she was saying how my dad was at work all the time, you know, and I'm grateful that we have this season where Elisha can support me. And
I get to work from home and be relatively present.
Yeah. If I like need him, he is here. And so I know that we have that like way easier than a lot of people would in this situation.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that. But I think we're both just like nervous how it's all going to go. It's the same thing. Like the kids just all get up early in the morning and the day starts. There's just a lot of needs right off the bat, but the Lord knows.
I feel like I really need to step up my game I've really slacked off over the last, I don't know, this year, maybe in general. I've kind of been a slacker when it comes to the discipline in my life and being up and ahead of the kids and, you know, preparing them breakfast, being in the Word with them, getting them. I think we're really good in the evening and bedtime and stuff. But I do feel like it's a good opportunity for me to rise to the occasion, and to just. I feel like I think need to step up my game for the sake of our home. I
was going to say you're very involved and present and disciplined.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. I just like what our friend says, you know, men are like semi-trucks. They drive better with a heavy load. And
it's been a while since you said that on here.
Yeah, well, I felt like because you're so active with our kids, it makes my job as a father so easy, you know, and I think that like a new challenge is good for me. I'm excited I think I'll be able to drive better and drive straighter with a heavier load.
There you go. We added to the load, folks.
The best kind of load.
Driving pretty straight. But yeah, I think we're really excited. And yeah, I'm preparing to go into a season of being really tired too. You know, it gets worse before it gets better with stuff like that. And
this might be the last podcast for a year. But no.
We're going to come out in 2022 being like, okay, we made it. You just don't know what you don't know. Anytime you add a child, whatever rhythms you have, whatever routines you had, stuff has to shift. And we've been doing this every year since we've got married.
Sure.
But it's always different. Every new baby, it's not like, oh, you just apply the same, you know, techniques. It's like stuff needs to change. I mean, I think it's really good for all of our other kids too, though, because like we get back on top of discipline, first time obedience, training, because it's like you can't have 3 kids disobeying you at the same time. Like Louis gotten away with so much stuff.
Yes.
The other day when he was leaving, you know, he threw a big temper tantrum. We never had temper tantrums with Leon and Lucy.
Right.
Like that.
Yes.
And it was just like, he's been the baby for a long time. He's gotten away with a lot. And all of a sudden you have 4 kids that you're taking care of and you're like, okay, this is no longer acceptable.
Right.
You have to start obeying daddy and mama now.
Exactly.
So I think it is healthy for everyone overall.
I agree. Well, folks, thank you for listening. Thank you for all of your encouragement and support through this pregnancy.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we're so grateful, and we'll be talking to you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Actually, do you want to?
What?
Do you want to tell them where they can like see pictures or video or anything?
Oh yeah, for sure. So, well, the email already went out.
Oh, okay.
At this point.
Okay.
So, I'll tell you right now if you're listening still to this. Top 5 Tuesday is where we send out like a little vlog and video updates and photos and just like life update stuff that we don't share on Instagram.
Yeah, we send it out in an email.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just Top 5 Tuesdays. Where? You're like, where? This in Seattle?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an email. And if you aren't already on that list, I'll link it in the show notes because each email is individual. So we don't, basically we aren't going to resend out the content again,
right.
But I guess at this point I'll post, well, on my channel, I'll have some birth vlog footage.
Cool.
I mean, I haven't previewed it yet, so maybe I won't, but you'll probably get that in next week's email. So sign up for the email today and next week you can get some footage.
Awesome. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.